Today we're driving the 2021 Toyota CHR Nightshade. This is Toyota's funky subcompact crossover. It has the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that makes 144 horsepower, and that's mated to a continuously variable transmission. It only comes in front-wheel drive. Europe does get a hybrid variant, which I think is kind of cool, but the US only gets this naturally aspirated version with the CVT. I think one of the big selling points of this CHR is just the funky design nature of it inside and out. Let's walk you around this, show you what it's like. I think Toyota makes some pretty good cars overall throughout their lineup, but this one for me has always been a bit of a head scratcher. So I'm excited to kind of delve in again. We drove a CHR about 2 or 3 years ago, and I didn't give it a very kind review, but I think after revisiting this makes for a nice, regular car for regular people who want something just a little bit different. It drives like an appliance. It's not exciting. It doesn't necessarily drive the way it looks. You think it might be kind of fun and Nissan Juke-like. It's not. It's just kind of weird, and there's not a lot of space inside, and the powertrain isn't very inspiring. But I think it has some positives, and there are definitely some merits that would appeal to younger buyers. I do like the way the rear end looks. It's kind of funky. It actually looks very Honda-like, but you've got this cool taillight design and hatchback shape. Look at these door handles. These are really cool. Let's unlock everything so we can get access. You just pull out, and not a lot of space back there. You have a decent amount of headroom. You do get a nice cup holder right here. Otherwise, though, once you're settled in here, you're pretty cozy. You feel a little bit claustrophobic with this high door frame, but at least up front, visibility and comfort is excellent. Getting in and out is very easy. Nice ingress and egress. And we have a pretty decent trunk size, but a very high loading height for some reason. We do get a spare tire back here, which is nice. I imagine this is very high because maybe it's making room for the hybrid powertrain in the European market. I'm not exactly sure, but it doesn't make for a lot of vertical height for storing larger items. Though you can fold the seats down, and this pretty much just turns into a hatchback. Nice little grab handle to lower everything. Rear window wiper. This has the 18-inch alloy wheels. Still rides and handles pretty well. The front end, I don't know about the design here. It doesn't really match the rest of the car. It kind of just looks like an old RAV4 with bug eyes. But beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There's an interesting body line right here. That's kind of fun. Let's look under the hood. Good old reliable Toyota 4-cylinder. Can't go wrong. Reasonably efficient. It gets 27 miles to the gallon in the city, 31 on the highway. Again, I think it would be pretty awesome if this were a hybrid. At least it would have something kind of funky going for it. It's pretty slow, only 144 horsepower. And it's an old school CVT, so get ready for the test drive. We're going to be whirring around town in this thing today. Let's take a look in the front seat. I do like this door panel design. Kind of cool. You've got this nice textured pattern right here. Very basic, simple controls. You have this melty steering wheel button layout that's kind of funky. It takes a little bit of getting used to at first, but once you know where everything is, it's a great ergonomic, user-friendly layout. You have Toyota's old school cruise control stock, which I actually really like. I'm glad that they've kept with this. Lane keep assist, lane following assist, radar cruise control, a lot of safety features in the CHR. For how cave-like and claustrophobic things are in the back seat, front seat visibility is actually excellent. We have a nice low door sill. This A-pillar is quite thin, and we have a pretty nice greenhouse looking forward. Just that C-pillar gives you a massive blind spot. Luckily, we get blind spot monitoring, and that seems to work pretty well. And in cars like this, I always like to put a little fisheye mirror in the corner so I can actually see in my blind spots. We have a standard shifter. It's got kind of a funky release button at the bottom of the ball part of the shifter. A reasonable reverse camera. I mean, nothing special. Still kind of low res, but it gets the job done. Auto climate control. a button for eco, heat, and cool. Easy button layout, nice vents, engine stop start button, a couple of cup holders here, nice place to put your phone, little charger right there, one USB port, and that's it. Just one USB port in the entire car, though there is a cigarette lighter port in the center console here. You've got a push button glove box with a decent amount of space in there, and that's really about it. Nothing fancy to the CHR. And you've got these little leaf designs in the headliner. We'll just glaze over the infotainment and the center screen really quickly. We've got a lot of different views here in this digital center display, fuel economy, speed, your safety settings, drive mode selector. You have to go into the settings to change your drive mode. We're just going to leave it in normal. This infotainment screen, I will say, is very nicely located near the steering wheel, close to the driver. People probably aren't going to like that it looks kind of tacked on, but at least it's been integrated somewhat nicely into the dashboard. Standard Toyota infotainment, nothing special there. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it looks and works just fine. Yeah, all right, I think that pretty much covers the interior. Let's go for a drive. The handbrake automatically disengages when you put it into drive. Steering is light, a reasonable turning radius there. The CHR is more expensive, less fuel efficient, not as spacious than pretty much all of its competitors. It's a totally fine vehicle to drive around town on a daily basis. I think for most people's use, this would be perfectly fine. If you really like the looks and you want something that's a little bit different, this is probably a pretty good buy. But if you're an enthusiast or you want a car that maybe is a little bit better value in this segment, I would highly recommend something from Mazda or Honda. Mazda for a slightly more inspiring drive. I mean, this CHR, being kind of a compact crossover, doesn't really have that much higher of a driving position. It doesn't really have much more ground clearance. You can't get it in all-wheel drive. If you want something that's a little bit more rugged and off-roady, I would go for the Crosstrek in that case. And this Nightshade is around $25,000 as spec'd, around almost 26 grand including destination. They start a little bit cheaper than that, around 22,000 bucks, but still not cheap for something that maybe isn't as competitive as some of its other lower priced rivals. The engine needs a lot of revs just to get going, and this is an old school CVT. Nobody is home off the line. It takes a lot of time for this to get up to speed. If you need to make a tight gap, forget about it. You're not going to get going as quickly as you want. Chirping the tires in this is not even going to happen. Even in the wet, under some cornering load, you can't get the wheels to spin. A lot of drone from the CVT. Let's see how this is off the line here. Very sluggish. That's full throttle and really not much going on. I think this is probably around a 10 seconds, 0 to 60 or so. Once you get up to speed, once you get going, you're on the highway, you're past 30, 40 miles per hour. I'd say the power here is adequate, but you're definitely, this is one of the slower cars on the road, one of the slower new vehicles that I've driven in the last few years. Getting up to speed here, 65, 70 miles an hour. Once you're able to get going and let that engine rev out, it gets up to speed okay. You do have the option to make this a 7-speed sequential gearbox, so it'll mimic shifts. And it does a pretty good job with that. Not sure why you would. No paddle shifters on the steering wheel or anything like that. And there's quite a bit of wind noise and road noise at speed. Brake pedals, steering, throttle all feel pretty good. One thing I will note that's a little bit of a disappointment is just the smell of this car. We have a lot of unpleasant odors from the plastics and rubbers degassing in here. Brand new car, you're going to get that new car smell. this one isn't particularly appetizing. The CHR is best driven casually, just putzing around town, not being driven spiritedly. Then that CVT doesn't wear away a whole lot. I think you can get reasonable fuel economy out of this, probably average over around 30 miles to the gallon. It's rated for 29 combined, but if you're easy on the throttle and you're doing some highway miles, shouldn't do too bad. Not a ton of fuel range in this. You only probably get about 300 miles to a tank. Let's see how it handles a corner. We have the 18-inch wheels. A little bit squishy on turn-in. Not a lot of steering feel. Fortunately, the radar cruise and a lot of the safety systems do work very well. Lane keep assist is okay. It keeps you somewhat centered between the lines. Nice for if you need to take your hands off the steering wheel for a few seconds. The radar cruise is nice and smooth. This is Toyota Safety Sense 2.5, so it's kind of their newer system. It resumes speed reasonably well around slower traffic with everything turned on. Lane keep doesn't do the best job. You can hold it though to turn it off, so at least you have nice quick access to those settings on the steering wheel. A lot of road noise, not a lot of NVH necessarily, but just a lot of noise coming through the cabin at speed. So, how can we sum up the Toyota CHR? A great car to get you from A to B. I'm sure it'll do so reliably, reasonably, efficiently for a long time. It's a Toyota. You kind of can't go wrong with this powertrain. Will it excite and inspire you? Not one bit, but not everyone wants the seat of their pants to be lit on fire in their subcompact crossover. There are a lot of other better buys, a lot of better options in the market than the CHR. But again, if the design language and the funky nature of this really speaks to you, you can get a pretty good deal on one. It's not a bad buy. It's just there are a lot of other better options. Even from Toyota, I would rather get a Corolla, get an XSE or a sedan or a hybrid, or get a Prius or a RAV4. I mean, for $24,000, you're almost there. And for me personally, I'm not really sure where this car fits in Toyota's lineup. It's kind of it's almost like it's left over from Scion. And it would have been cool if they made this a hybrid. I think that would have given it just a little bit more appeal, especially early on in its life cycle. Just kind of a funky alternative to the Prius. But now we've got the Corolla hybrid and the RAV4 hybrid, and all those vehicles are really nice buys in the lineup. So that kind of leaves me, again, scratching my head on the CHR. Let's walk you around this one more time. We'll take a look at the outside, and then we'll go straight into a sound system test and listen to see what this music is like. I do like this gray. The Nightshade is a fun color. For a crossover though, not a lot of ground clearance. You do get a slightly higher driving position. The rear end kind of almost looks Civic Type R-like. Imagine this in like a manual transmission, that 3-cylinder turbo, kind of a slightly lifted rally hatch. That would be fun. I would rock a CHR that had some more power and a better drivetrain, maybe even a hybrid option. We'll see what Toyota does with this. Anyway, let's go into the sound system test and see what this Grace Note sound system is like. On initial impressions, this Grace Note sounds just fine for mid-20s. Not bad. This is actually as good as some of Toyota's JBL systems, some of their premium systems. The music does help drown out a lot of the tire and road noise. The lane following still just kind of wanders back and forth a little bit more than I would like. Kia and Hyundai definitely have a lot better systems in their Seltos or the Venue or the Kona. Alright guys, there is the new 2021 Toyota CHR. I guess it's not new anymore, it's been out for a few years, but it's a new video of one. Thanks for watching. If you stuck around this long, if you're interested, follow me on Instagram at TheTopher2. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.